Thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining us and sharing your story. Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about what you went through on your motherhood journey?
Sure. Well, it was a journey. It was a long journey, and I was prepared for it to be a very quick and easy experience, and it certainly was not. I started trying to get pregnant with my husband at age 39, and I thought it would happen quickly, and it wasn't happening. And I gave it a year because I thought I should be giving it, enough time for us trying on our own. And finally, after about a year, I was just turning 40 and I decided, okay, well, I better go to an IVF center. And I chose one. I was living in Manhattan at the time and I chose one. I went there and they were very much like, you better get on it now. You better have IVF immediately. They ran various tests. My AMH was low. And so they said, you have almost no chance of having a baby on your own without IVF at this point. And I was floored. I was shocked. I decided to try IUI first because of financial reasons. My insurance didn't cover IVF at all. And so I had the hysterosalpingogram and the dye went through, but it wasn't completely smooth. But so I was getting ready on the one clinic and I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I feel so comfortable with them. And the friend of a friend had gone to another clinic in Manhattan that specialized in older women. So I shifted gears and I went there instead. And I met with the doctor and he was really positive. He's like, you're 40, you're in good health. Yeah, we can get you pregnant. Not a problem. And I was ecstatic to say the least. Okay, so cut to 4 unsuccessful IVF cycles later. It did not happen. I was on the highest dose IVF meds. They had jacked up my hormones all the way. I was taking high doses of DHEA. I was first cycle, 2 embryos, nothing happened. Second cycle, I think it was the second one where they recommended that perhaps it was either the second or third cycle. One of those cycles, they said, it could be you might have an autoimmune problem going on. They thought I sort of had like this butterfly rash. Maybe you have lupus, and which I didn't. But so they recommended I do IVIG. And of course, I'm desperate at this point. I'm pushing.
Can you explain what IVIG is, please?
It's an intravenous medication that helps to, I'm not so clear on it anymore, but I know that it was to help work around if there's an autoimmune issue. And so it would help with the implantation of the embryo or embryos. And I had done that. Again, this was all out of pocket for me. And, but you feel like you're racing against the clock and you're willing to try anything at that point. Yeah. So I had done it. And on the next IVF, unsuccessful again. And the doctors were like, well, you really should just, try again. And I was kind of like, okay, I guess I have to. And so I went for my third IVF cycle. The embryologist came out to meet me. She wanted to meet me because she's like, you're 41 years old. You have excellent embryos. It wasn't quantity because there wasn't a lot, but the quality was excellent. And she just wanted to see who it was. And so I was really inspired. I thought, oh, yeah, now it's going to work. It's going to happen. And third IVF cycle, I did get pregnant and I miscarried at like 7 weeks. And it was an excruciatingly painful experience emotionally. Emotionally, it just crushed me. And I thought that was it. And I was out of money and I felt like I was out of time. And, just listening to the doctor say, yeah, we don't know, maybe it's not, for you. And so my last ditch effort I felt was, okay, let's take a step back. Why don't we try IUI? Because IVF is clearly not working. And
so this was after 4 IVFs, correct?
After 3 IVFs.
Oh, after 3 IVFs. Okay.
So the last one gets a little complicated. I decided to go on my 4th try for IUI. And again, hysterosalpingogram, the dye wasn't going through super smoothly. It went through, but it was not coming through as they had hoped. And the doctors had said, you might have a lot of trouble and you're having an excellent cycle right now. You really should switch to IVF. And, it's like, okay, grab the credit card and, this is it. I'm having a great cycle. And to waste it on an IUI when my fallopian tubes might not be fully patent, just seems like, why am I even bothering? So I switched over to IVF, really encouraged at this point. And nothing, not a miscarriage, nothing. And at that point I was out of money and really despondent. And I'm also an acupuncturist and an herbalist. And throughout this, I was writing some herbal formulas for myself. And it was mostly to support the egg quality. And I feel that definitely was reflected in my quality of embryos was great. But what I didn't realize going through these 4 IVF cycles, and it wasn't until the post-cycle recap with the doctor who said to me, I don't know what else to do for you. I don't know what to say to you. You have great embryos, but it's just not working. You might have endometriosis. Here's the card for a doctor that I know who, hopefully he can help you. I don't know what else to tell you. And so I knew that I was closing the chapter on IVF. And I went to see this doctor who was excellent. He was a wonderful, wonderful doctor, is a wonderful doctor. And based on my history, he had said, yeah, it really sounds like you have endometriosis. The only way to know for sure, though, is through laparoscopic surgery. And of course, his practice wasn't covered by my insurance either. So I went pretty far into debt with this whole journey. But I was really determined to give it all I had before I called it quits. And yeah, it turned out I had laparoscopic surgery. I had stage 4 endometriosis. And when I realized that I was going to have the surgery, I decided to kind of adjust my formula, my herbal formula, to also address endo and then post-surgically to address the healing. He was an excellent surgeon, got everything out. I had been working on egg quality, on healing, and he had told me, listen, wait 3 months and then go back to the IVF center and do another cycle and see. Now everything's cleared out. It should be good. And I said, okay. So I thought I really had to wait. Cut to 6 weeks later, I was pregnant on my own. And I was so scared because I thought I wasn't supposed to be pregnant, that it was going to be, some kind of complication. And I remember being really nervous. I went back to the endo doctor and he just said, no, congratulations, that's excellent, and then I went back to the IVF center just to show them that we did it without them. So it was really interesting. Now again, also during the time when I was going for endometriosis, these laparoscopic surgery, just before that, I had also been doing some energy work with a fellow acupuncturist, and I had heard of this Spirit Baby book author, Walter McKitchen. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm sorry if I'm not. He is now deceased, but he has an excellent book on spirit babies. And I had booked an appointment via telephone with him and to see what he would have to say. And he saw that I did have a baby in my future. And, it just changed something inside of me, and it made me feel like, okay, this isn't just me. It's not just my determination, but there is a connection. And it really opened my heart, and it allowed me to kind of slow down and take some deep breaths and not be so, worked up and in my head and tense all the time. And the surprise was during this call also that he not only was telling me about my baby, but he was telling me about my babies, that I would have a second. I was like, I'm 41 years old. What do you mean a second baby? And he described 2 children in pretty clear detail. And so lo and behold, during this time period, I had the surgery. I was recovering with herbs, and I was thinking about the 3-month mark to go back. And all of a sudden, my period doesn't come. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I getting too old?
I'm going into menopause.
I was so much in here and just like, oh my goodness, now I've waited too long and now it's never going to happen. And I waited a couple of days and still nothing. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll take a pregnancy test. I have them lying around, and it was positive. And my husband and I were just so ecstatic at that moment. And it was wonderful. It was so wonderful. And it was ultimately a healthy pregnancy, a healthy baby. It was a bit of a journey through that pregnancy too, because the doctors were looking at me as an older mother and expecting to find problems. And I'm so glad I just followed my heart through that and didn't get too nervous, because it wouldn't have happened. One doctor misdiagnosed an ultrasound and told me my baby was going to be incompatible with life. And I had a CBS, a chorionic villus sample. Genetically, everything was fine, but I had a really terrible long weekend up until like in that time period in between. So I'm glad I just held tight and I had the genetic testing done. Everything was fine. Great kid. I love him. He's now almost 12, and he's incredibly smart and incredibly kind. And, just really a great kid. I'm so lucky. And after I had him, I was like, well, but Walter said there's another one. I better get working on this. And it took a little bit longer for that one. It was, my boys are almost 3 years apart, just under 3 years. And again, I was starting to give up hope, and I thought, oh, I guess I'm going to have to go back for IVF again, and I was just getting ready to go after the holidays. This was in 2012, going into 2013. And I was 44 years old, and I was, getting ready to, I had called the IVF center again, and I said, okay, we had made a plan that I would call again right after the new year and, start at it. And it was January 10th, I believe, 2013, where I hadn't had my period in a couple of days, and I'm starting to freak out again that I've waited too long, and took a pregnancy test just now and I was pregnant. And I had done it early one morning, and my husband was coming downstairs for breakfast, and I just left it on the counter. And I didn't say anything. He's like, what's this? What? And he was like, it really wasn't processing. And I was like, honey, I'm pregnant. He's like, you're teasing me. Stop it. I was like, no. And so great. My second boy was born they both were full term. My second boy was born, a couple months after I turned 45, and another healthy baby. And I love them so much. And they're such great kids, and they keep me young. They keep me on my toes, and I'm always running with them. That baby just turned 9. And so, here I am to say that you can't listen to all of the negativity, and you have to, my best advice, I guess, would be, take a deep breath. It's you have to kind of buckle down and get ready that, it might not be a really short journey. It might be a bit of a process, but, it's not that sprint. It's trying to plan for what you could plan for. It's trying to, know what might be any obstacles. Had I known that I had endometriosis, it could have saved me, 80 grand or so, 90 grand, whatever it was that I paid at the time for all the IVF and the surgery. But also just take care of yourself. And that's with energy work. I highly, of course, I'm an acupuncturist, so I firmly believe that acupuncture can certainly help. And, and I really believe that herbs are a very big part of the equation as well. But having faith and determination and looking down all avenues. And I do feel that connecting with these souls was a big part of what helped me to calm down and to realize that, yeah, it is possible, and there is hope. And just because I'm in my 40s doesn't mean that, get on the bench, you're not in the game anymore. So, and I hope that I can inspire someone. I wish I could see myself 12 years ago, 14 years ago, when I was starting this whole journey. I wish I could see myself now to have that peace of mind that, you gather the information, you do what you can do, you control what you can control, but you can't control everything. And it's taking that step back and being kind to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I work with spirit babies. So it's interesting that you bring that up. And I find that for women in their 40s, it's really helpful for them because, the journey can be a bit longer than they had hoped originally. And so to connect with their spirit baby during this process really kind of gives them something more tangible to hold on to, like, oh, there is, like, it is possible. This baby is with me. And so I really highly encourage people to try to connect with their spirit baby. And I'm going to actually put a link to a spirit baby meditation that I have in the description below so that they can, well, it's a very simple process actually, and they can connect with their spirit baby. But yeah, to me, I think it's one of the most critical components in my work with women in their 40s, because for many of them, it can be such a long road.
Sorry, my
And,
cat just jumped up there.
yeah.
It definitely can. And it's building that connection
Mhm.
that helps keep you on course also, and
Yeah.
helps give you that, like, what you're striving for, who you're striving for.
Yeah.
And having that connection really makes a big difference,
Yeah.
because you're being bombarded with all of the negativity of why you can't, and oh, it's going to be, impossible unless you do it, unless you go straight to IVF, unless you go, well, do your due diligence and research everything, but don't give up hope. Don't
Mhm.
give up hope.
Yeah. Especially when you feel it like really in your heart, like really burning in your heart. When it's that strong within you, it's possible. And you've just got to get your mind out of the way.
Exactly. That's
Really
huge.
listen to your heart and let your heart guide the journey instead of the mind with the logic and the next steps and having this entire plan set out. So just let your heart guide.
Exactly. It is getting out of the head and into the heart.
Yeah. What are the advantages of being an older mom?
Oh gosh, there's lots of them. I think, as far as being an older mom, it does come down. Age is only a number. As far as, I can keep up with the other parents. I can, I might look a little older, but I don't care. You kind of leave your ego on the side, and the advantages are, wow, I have a lot more world experience, life experience, and I have a lot more to offer my kids, and I have a lot more patience. It gets tiring sometimes. I'm not going to lie, parenthood can be challenging, but I do have more patience, and I do have more experience. And I think, you don't write yourself off just because you're older. You really can offer a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I also think as an advantage of being older mom is that you're more able to allow your child to express themselves, to be who they are, as opposed to, I'm generalizing, but I think younger moms tend to have this kind of, it's almost like they're living through their child, and it needs to be a certain way. The child has to develop a certain way, has to fit in a certain box, whereas someone who's older, who has more wisdom and more experience, can step back and just let the child be who they need to be,
And accept that, they are, we're all individuals and we all have our own path. And, you have your baby, you have all that potential when you see them as babies, but they're going to grow up to who they are and you help to guide them. But being older, you do have more of that acceptance. Like, okay, this is, you can look more closely. What are their strengths? And help guide them on their strengths instead of saying like, you have to be, you check off the boxes on, all the accomplishments they need to make.
Right.
No, you accept it. They're wonderful who they are. And it's such an incredible experience.
Yeah. They're just such gifts. And
yeah, they are gifts. They are gifts. And they teach us a lot about ourselves too.
For sure.
Many lessons.
Yeah. So what's a lesson that you learned during those challenging times that you will teach your children?
Fortitude, I mean, it really was, I felt like, okay, what will be, will be. I'm going to try everything I can to make this happen. I don't want to look back and say, oh, I didn't turn over that stone. I wanted to, and so I had that determination, that fortitude to persevere against the odds. And then also to be at peace with like, okay, what will happen now. And I know that I tried, and it's okay. It's, it's part of the journey. And I think sharing that with my children, as far as like, if you want something, you go all in, you try everything you can, but you also have to realize that, even your will alone might not make it happen.
Right.
But to just know that you've tried everything you can, is a very important lesson.
Yeah, it's a personal philosophy of mine to have no regrets.
Absolutely. Well, that's a much more succinct way of saying it.
Right? You go all in, you do everything that you can.
Uh-huh.
And then however it turns out, whether or not it turns out or, the way that you want it to, at least you've done everything.
Absolutely.
And you can close that chapter, wholeheartedly and move on.
Right. And put that energy into something else positive. Yeah. Or if you're having the baby, you're going to put a lot of energy into that baby. It's a lot of work, but it's wonderful. But just do all you can do.
Yeah. Did you have a question on that journey that you could not get an answer to? Like as you were going through that, you were just kind of struggling with a specific question?
That's a great question. Why does this have to be so difficult? It's something that should be so natural. And I knew scientific, I knew the science, I knew the biology, but it was just, it just kept on coming back. I kept on coming back to why is something that's so motivated by love and an open heart, why is that so difficult? And I think part of my answer, at least for myself, was I had to get out of my head.
Yeah.
I really had to get out of my head. That was a lot of what was holding me back, was that stress. We're all bombarded with so much stress in our daily lives that, and then the stress of being an older woman trying to have a baby is just, intense. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of women, part of the journey, this is part of their life journey, right? All of us have challenges in different areas. And for some women, it's in this area. Others, it's going to be financial. Others, intimate relationships. Others, it's going to be a compilation of different things. But, this is where we learn our lessons. and we grow and expand if we're willing to face it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's true. It's a part of a journey. It can be applied to, any area of the journey that you face challenges in.
Yeah. So you're an acupuncturist and an herbalist who, has clinical experience. Is there anything that you can share as a clinician?
I strongly believe in acupuncture and
I do too.
herbal medicine. I've devoted my life to it. Find an experienced clinician and follow their guidance. It's really not something that you can learn from Googling, because there's so much, many interactions you have to be aware of, what particular herbs and herbal formulas work best. It really becomes very involved. And so find someone with experience and do the work. I really credit a lot of my journey, or at least, the egg quality, the healing.
Yeah.
I was taking intense herbs and I was going all in with the raw herbs. I mean, I used to work at an herbal pharmacy in New York City, and I had a lot of background in all of the different preparation of herbs. And, so I was doing my little witchy brews at home, cooking up my herbs.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have to second that. Using herbs is not something that you can learn from books, because we go through training for years on how to create these formulas. They're not like supplements where you just pull them off the shelf and then you take them. It's such an elegantly complex and yet simple. It's like a paradox, but without any clinical experience, there's no way you can do this yourself. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I know people are going to ask, well, what herbal formulas did you take? And it's not that simple. You do have to work with an herbalist, because every person's so individual.
Exactly.
Right, as it sounds, but it's true. We don't treat the diagnosis or the label. We treat the person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what worked for me might totally not work for someone else, and what will work for them wouldn't be what the right formula for me. And it's also how you customize it too. You can customize the formulas by adding or subtracting some herbs. So it's really, there is, like you said, an elegance to it. It's not just the science, there's an art to it. And so, and that comes with experience.
For sure. And I would apply that to more general fertility as well, because I think I see a lot of women kind of going in with this cookie cutter approach, where they read what other people have done, and then they copy and paste to their situation. And it just does not apply, because all you're reading is a sentence of their entire history. And you're basing your treatment protocol on one sentence, and it just cannot be done. People, if they're really serious about getting pregnant in their 40s, they need to seek professional help. They need to seek someone who has the clinical experience. You just cannot put this together like a jigsaw puzzle. You just don't. I mean, I've been in this for 20 years. I'm still learning with every client that I have, right? And it helps to refine my technique, refine the approach, tweaking, constantly experimenting. And it's not to diminish the value of reading and researching, but at some point you're going to have to give it over and just admit you're going to need help. You're going to need someone who is more experienced.
Exactly. And ultimately that will save you time, because, as we all know, in our 40s and beyond, the clock is ticking. I hate that expression, but you don't want to, you have to be prepared for the marathon, but you don't want to make it any longer than necessary. So when you're talking about herbs and herbal formulas, cut to the chase, go to someone with experience, get on the correct formula for you. And it might need to be tweaked. It's not like you're going to start a formula and then your next cycle you'll be pregnant. It takes a while to build up your body, your health, and to clear away whatever needs to be cleared away. And, it's a process, but if you're starting with someone who has the correct experience, you're that much farther along.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for sharing your story and, your expertise, your professional perspective as well. So I really appreciate the time and your openness to really being able to inspire other women